I'm going to talk today about a building we've been working on for about 6 years in Kuala Lumpur. It's called Merdeka PNB118. Quite a mouthful. Merdeka meaning freedom. PNB is our client group. Permeladen Nacional Berhad, very big asset management group in KL. And and 118, of course, it's 118 stories. It's a very, very big tower. I liked Kip's little talk about the naming of his building, so I thought I'd slip this in at the start. How did it get called Merdeka PNB 118? We called it, the design team, all the consultants called it KL118. That had a sort of very good international ring about it. And we called it that for quite a few years. But when we got close to having to launch the building, a British branding agency was brought on board, and they spent 6 very expensive months working out a name for this building. And they came back to us and said, this building should be called KL118, which we thought, oh, okay, that's good. So we thought that resolves that. It was taken to the chairman of the board of PNB, and they went through their very eloquent spiel about why it should be called KL118, and he said, no, Merdeka PNB 118. I like freedom, the company name, and 118. So that's, and I'm still having trouble not calling it KL118, so if it slips out, bear with me. This is not Merdeka PNB 118. This is Eureka Tower in Melbourne. It's a residential tower. It's 300 metres, and we finished that 10 years ago. The relevance of that is, I think it's probably why we were awarded the project to do in KL. The client group very much liked or wanted a regional architect, but who had done a tall building. They saw this building in Melbourne, and hence we got a Guernsey, and it was also the talk of the town. It was out of this world. It was, at the time that it was sold, 15 years ago, there'd been nothing like it in Australia, really. But this is Merdeka PNB 118. It is 118 stories tall, which places it higher than 600 metres. It has 190,000 square metres of office space, over 83 stories, 16 hotel floors, 4 observation levels, including restaurants and cafe, 6 podium levels, which out of which will grow some residential towers in the future. It's got over 100,000 square metres of retail and 8 basement levels. And I'm not going to tell you how many cars that parks, because in this day and age it's a little bit of an embarrassment, but everyone likes cars in KL, and we're mandated to provide this many cars. So this is how it's placed in relationship to the Petronas Towers and the KL Tower, forming a very neat triumvirate. And this is an aerial view of the site. In the foreground, you'll see a stadium which is called Stadium Merdeka. Incredibly important place in KL. This is where the Declaration of Independence was declared in 1957, and it stands as a very, very important place. It was designed by Tan Sri Stanley Jukes, who was an architect, engineer and city planner. And he also designed the domed Stadium Negara that you can see in the background. And as you can see, when we first came to the site, it was a little bit in disrepair. The first Prime Minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman, said that, or shared a vision with Jukes, that this place should be really maintained as a civic garden for prosperity. But the time has a way of eroding those sorts of visions. And with development parcellisation, you can see that the gardens disappeared, and this was a proposal for development around the site when we were first appointed to the job. Our clients, this is mostly residential development that you can see here, and here's a little picture of it. Nice little celebration of the heritage most important heritage place in KL. But our clients, luckily, had a different agenda. They needed a very large amount of office space to house all of their subsidiaries. So it's actually a purpose-built office building, and what that meant is a lot of the accommodation was now going to go into one building at a very great height, not necessarily spread out across the whole site like this. So this was our strategy. You see, we had to design a building. No one at the time mentioned to me much about how to site this building, but I was asked, after I met the board, I was asked to present our building to the Prime Minister in about 6 weeks, 6 schemes. And I thought, well, that's one challenge, but we'd have to put it somewhere on the site. So we defied the current parcellisation and reworked the master plan, which in itself was quite an endeavour logistically. So the light blue square is where we decided to place the tower. It was tempting to put it on axis with Stadium Negara, the circular stadium, and Stadium Merdeka, the open stadium, but that would have crowded it too much. So instead we created a triangle, and by placing the tower where the blue square is, the light blue square, it enabled us to then create on axis a linear park. And that linear park would then serve to provide a fantastic plaza, a garden plaza, to Stadium Merdeka and further enhance Stadium Merdeka. These were we went through a lot of design options, but these were the 6 designs that I presented to the Prime Minister. And with a little bit of help, a little bit of subtle help during the presentation, he actually picked the right tower, which is the one on your left. Which is a kind of crystalline diamond form. And I'll tell you a little bit about why that is as we go. So this was how our new site parcellisation worked, with the tower being the blue diamond, the linear court also blue. Blue was representing water at the time. And the podium, which is a crystalline form, containing the retail and other activities. And this early rendering just shows the building in its relationship to the Petronas Towers in the distance and the KL Tower on the left. One of our little study movies, just showing how the composition of the towers worked. You'll notice that the podium is also quite a crystalline form. We didn't want to be insulted by the usual tyranny of retail boxes. There's quite a lot of towers around the world that come to retail. The towers have quite an artful expression, and the retail becomes a box. So the crystalline form of the tower was brought down to the podium, and although the podium won't be covered in glass, it'll be coated in metallic panels of a very nice counterpoint to the glass. The tower is, it's a very big tower. And what we did here was actually celebrate the structural pathways in the building. And we did this with a fair degree of intention. When you put a building like this into a place like KL, steeped in its own culture and history, the question is, how does the building become relevant? And for us, the idea of celebrating the structural pathways, which formed a whole series of diamond patterns and triangles, related subtly to the pattern making that they very much utilise in Malaysia. The interesting thing about that is that they were all different sizes of triangles. So it kind of subtly symbolised all the different socio-economic, religious, cultural groups and put them all together to form a statement of one Malaysia. And of course, this was the platform of the Prime Minister, One Malaysia, bringing all those groups together. The lighting of the building was very important. We did this with Fisher Marantz stone out of New York. And This really was a bit of a challenge as well, because obviously this is a big glass tower. You can't illuminate glass. We decided to illuminate the structural pathways. But that worked very well for us because the Petronas Towers is a wonderful chandelier of lighting. If you've seen it, it is really majestic. The KL Tower on the left is like it's a sphere of sparkling lights. And we didn't want to copy, obviously, so the idea of a linear lit pathways to us seemed an artful way of combining with those three buildings. And just rising up the building, actually when it's lit at night time, the lighting, it's very flexible, but one of the lighting ideas or intentions is to follow the pathways, and where the pathways cross, they'll give a spark. You can see the elevators running up the outside of the building. They are the elevators to the sky deck, which run at 10 metres a second. So it's about a 1-minute journey to get from the base of the building to the sky deck at the top, some 600 metres high. We thought that if people got a bit nervous about riding up the outside of the building to that height, they'd have to turn their back to the view and the notion of height. But we've mirrored the doors as well, so the only way you can escape is to close your eyes. When you get to the top, 4 levels: restaurant, bar, and 2 levels of observation deck. This will be the tallest building in Malaysia and will really have wonderful views to the horizon. Coming down through the building, people will exit via a sky bridge which connects the tower to the retail mall, but to the top of the tower. So people will pass over a garden that separates, that's on the roof, that separates the tower form from the retail mall, and they will then descend through the retail. And obviously that's a way of having people constantly going to the upper reaches of the retail and sending their way down. This is a view of the retail mall section of the Podium, with the towers not shown. And we've also included in the design an 80-metre diameter tessellated glass dome, so that the experience from within the retail will also be quite profound as you look up the building, like so, from the top floors particularly. This is a beautiful old sundial. It's called an analematic sundial. It was also designed by Jukes, the architect of the stadium. And I love this thing because it's such an unusual sundial. It has a vertical gnomon with an elevated, with an 11-pointed star. You can see the blade in the middle with the little pointed umbrella-like form. And that casts a shadow over the elliptical dial representing the crescent of Malaysian Federation. So Jukes was also a bit of a philosopher. As I got more and more involved in this project, I had more and more respect for this gentleman who actually contributed a tremendous amount to the civic design of Kuala Lumpur. Anyhow, the point of that is it's been removed and it's now relocated somewhere in KL. And it just gave us the thought that with our very large tessellated glass dome, we would have to have a servicing gantry. So what we've done, it's not a sundial, but at least it's a reference to time. And this thing rotates according to the time. So it's a very, very slow, unlike this speeded up version, but it just keeps rotating and always pointing to the time within the retail centre. The retail centre on its eastern edge links with Stadium Negara, again designed by Jukes. It's going to be a food street, a landscaped food street, and so this forms part of the interaction of the Podium with the ground plane and with the surrounding precincts. And as you can see, it's got quite a good view of the Petronas Towers. It's under cover, Malaysia gets incredible downpours, and so the whole surrounds of the retail podium is actually undercrofted or with large shade and rain structures. And this is just showing one corner, which has the entry to the cinema complex within it. So the idea is that the podium is not just a box, it's that's an obstacle to the public realm. It's very open, people can flow through, and they can do so under shelter if they are around the perimeter of the retail. As I said, the building has 8 basements, mostly full of car parking. But I'm just showing you a couple of the basements which indicate basically the program. The orange rectangle is actually the station box for the new MRT that's now been built and which will deliver the public right to the front door of the retail, the purple being some of the lower retail that takes you up and connects to the retail above. The shading of the greys is all car parking, public car parking, residential car parking, office car parking, and the circle in the middle, which has the diamond core, diamond-shaped vertical transportation core of the tower, that contains the Central District Chiller Plant and the grey water treatment plant. No car parking under the tower. You just cannot do that these days. It's too dangerous. We live in a pretty tough age of terrorism, but we've utilised that space for some very good sustainability features. And you'll see on this one where the first level of retail is completed, you'll see this piece running off here. That's on top of that is the linear park. But underneath the linear park is car parking for Stadium Merdeka. There are access tunnels that are being built to bring people in a very elegant way into the site. There is off-peak chilled water generation that happens underneath that park as well. And the green is mostly hotel activities. So this section through the base of the building actually shows the podium. This is a really, really large podium. It's probably 120 metres long. And from the right-hand side, it stretches from Jalan Hang Jebat, a very, very busy road that connects to Chinatown. And that part of the podium, podium entry, provides access to the hotel and also to the office and to the retail by travelling up these escalators just here. 10-metre difference in floor levels, and once you arrive up here, you've bypassed the access to the retail and arrived more at a ceremonial atrium, but also that's where the security occurs for coming into the tower. So these are about 35 metres tall, but this here is a 35-story atrium, and that atrium acts as a ventilation chimney. Well, this is a floor plan of that whole entry sequence. You can see all the lift core with the elevators and the satellite cores which there are 4 of, which connect the car parking to these lobbies. The hotel is accessed here, separated by a water feature from this lobby, which gives you access to the retail and onto the office spaces. And you have the statutory walk around and the photographic point, which cantilevers out over the volume of the lobbies. So this is coming into the entry of the building from Jalan Hang Jebat, the lower side, and we're looking on the right-hand side at the entry to the hotel, and on the left-hand side the entry to the office building. And this is underneath an enormous canopy, again, so that you can arrive in an elegant fashion when you have inclined driving rain, which is often the case. But again, at the entry point, to give you an outstanding view up the tower. So this is the hotel lobby. The beautiful thing about the office and the hotel sharing the lobby is they both take advantage of this enormous volume. The whole thing looks as though it's been carved out of stone, out of travertine that will hopefully come from Italy, and in particular from Tivoli, where the best travertine in the world, I'm told, is found. On the other side of the water feature, which separates the two, is the entry to the office and the retail. We're going to climb the stairs here very quickly and easily, but most people will take the escalators up and down on each side. The tower is coming down through here, so that's all the glazing you can see, and we're going past the protected lobbies, the security lobbies of the tower itself. And as we get to the top, we pass on the left the entry to the retail. We come through the arcade, which has got the garden above, and that is where the bridge crosses to take people from the sky deck into the retail. As you look up through the roof of that arcade, you see the building rising above you, and as you come around the front of the building, you can see at the top there the 35-storey atrium, and we get to this piece here, which is the security place of the building, the arrival place. And this particular entry lobby can also be, it's a multi-purpose space which can be used in many, many different ways for exhibitions, car shows. It can even be used as a prayer hall. The actual security desk is highlighted by this backlit onyx piece, which is in the shape of a Manenka bar, or one of the regional hats. As you walk past and through security, you walk underneath the 35-storey ventilation chimney with skylights to each side. And at the top, and this is at the first sky deck level, there's a glass floor. And we had to have a glass floor. That's 35 stories up in the air, and if you're game enough to stand on it, you will look down back into the entry lobby below. A typical office floor. This building is over 80 metres in the long dimension and 60 metres across. And yes, it has a lot of core, but it has a very, very well-dispositioned office floor space. The lease span is 12 metres, which is an ideal. The office floors are 2,200 to 2,400 square metres. And of course, all of the offices enjoy fantastic views. A typical sky lobby, this is the place which we have the lift transfers. They are points of safety, and they're transfer zones for enhanced evacuation. These are actually 3 stories. 3 of them occur through the building. They're each 3 stories. 1 story is a plant area, and 2 stories are lift transfer. We have double-deck lifts, so when these lifts arrive, you can enter or depart on either of those floors. The hotel is in the top third of the building, 24 keys per floor and connecting atria. So, this little diagram just shows you the position of the sky lobbies and the belt truss zones. We worked on the structures with Les Robertson and Lira out of New York, the Robert Bird Group out of Australia, and Arabs, who are the local engineers of record. Not easily seen here are another 3 intermediate belt truss zones, but they are only 1 story high, and they occur at the midpoints between the major belt truss zones. The lifting strategy, I still don't quite understand how all this works, to tell you the truth. There's 87 elevators in this building, including 37 double decks. They run at 10 metres a second. You know, the art of lifting in these buildings, it's about life safety, it's about efficiency, it's about many, many things. It's a combination of a complex art and a science, but fortunately for the users, they are easy to use because they utilise predictive logic. This is a little plan of the belt truss zones, very, very simplistic, but from the core, these the mega columns connect via these outriggers, so that's all steel. The belt trusses are steel. These diagrams show you how they work. They're 3 stories. They are quite a complex arrangement, especially the connections back to the core. And so you can see here. Now, I should say that the mega columns, so there's 8 mega columns around the edge of the building. That's these ones here. At the base of the building, they are 3.2 by 4.5 metres. And as you rise to the top of the building, they reduce to about 1 metre by 2 metres, which is still a substantial size. But what I really like about the belt truss zones is in these transfer areas, the outriggers will be coming roaring through the space. They'll become incredibly sculptural and interesting, and you'll kind of understand how the building works, how the building hangs off these zones. The glass, that speaks for itself, double glazed, titanium coated, laminated outer glass. There's a mandate in Malaysia that with tall buildings you must use laminated glass in case of breakage. It's low E coated inner glass, 0.2 shading coefficient, 1.6 UV factor, and 15% visual light transmission. It'll be a bluey silver coloured building, which will really enhance the crystalline nature of the building. The green building certification, we have a LEED Platinum target, and the way we've been working with Terrapin and Lair consultants out of New York for MEP. We're employing central district cooling, fanless cooling towers in line with the car park ventilation. In other words, the chillers will use the air that's exhausted out of the car park by the car park fans. It means we don't have to have fans in the cooling towers. Thermal energy storing using off-peak chilled water generation, grey water treatment, rainwater harvesting, high-performance double glazing, solar hot water to hotel, and photovoltaic solar panels, and a host of other items. But there's really the potential for a great agenda of applications when you're working with a building of this size and scale. Now, we're working also with Sasaki out of Boston on the landscape. This is the axis that we created in front of Stadium Merdeka there on the right. This is a very, very placeholder rendering of the garden, but Sasaki came up with a fantastic landscape plan. It's based on this water feature that runs the length of the whole garden. They called it the Silver River. It has source and it has a cascade, a source near the building, cascade in the middle, and a water park opposite the Stadium Merdeka. So this is at the top of the gardens. That's where the water starts. It all cascades down. We have incredible waterfalls which you can walk through, behind and around. And it goes on to a water park at the base outside Stadium Merdeka. But in the case of an event at the stadium, this can all be turned off and we get a dry park so that the crush of people coming in and out of the stadium can be catered for. And then at off-peak times, it can be turned off completely or just have a little sprinkle for kids. We also had to have a photographic point. This was very important. So this is above the tunnel entry, and buses can actually come here. A lot of tourists will come, take the photograph, get back in the bus and drive off and say they've been to Stadium Merdeka and its precinct. So this will actually be on the roof of a little museum that we're currently designing. And And it'll be actually quite a hero photograph, I must say, of something that's well over 600 metres in the background.
Okay.
I'll finish.
No, these are the remnants of that.
Good job.
Good job.
That's a dynamic pile test, 25 kilograms of explosive, exerting 10,000-tonne downward force with a 39mm elastic deflection. We have started, we're actually pouring concrete at the moment into the cofferdam, and after 6 years, the building has started. So we'll be open for business in 2020. Thank you very much.